You incompetent fool. The words hit me like a slap. Quincy's voice boomed across the boardroom, his face red with anger. My presentation slide still glowed on the screen behind me, but he'd already made up his mind. I stood frozen at the front of the room. 12 executives in expensive suits stared at me. My hands shook as I reached for my laptop. 6 weeks of work, 6 weeks of late nights and weekend research, all destroyed in 30 seconds. This is reckless. Quincy continued, his finger pointing at me like a weapon. You've just put our entire relationship with Virextech at risk with this fantasy pitch. The silence felt heavy. I wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor. My throat burned with shame. But then I saw something strange. Mr. Flynn, the CEO of Virextech, leaned back in his chair. He crossed his arms and smiled. Not a kind smile, not a mocking one either. Something else, something calculated. His eyes met mine for just a second. And in that moment, I knew something had shifted. The game was about to change completely. The meeting ended in painful silence. People gathered their papers and filed out without looking at me. I felt like I was drowning in front of everyone. Quincy walked past me without a word. His expensive cologne left a trail of smugness in the air. I stood there, clutching my laptop bag, trying not to cry. "Excuse me." I turned around. Flynn stood behind me, his hand extended. In his palm was a business card. "We should talk," he said quietly, privately. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was this good or bad? His face gave nothing away. Professional, calm, but his eyes held something I couldn't read. "I'm free tomorrow afternoon," he added. "Coffee? There's a place called the Daily Grind on 5th Street. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He walked away, leaving me alone in the empty boardroom. The silence felt different now. Not crushing. Electric. I looked down at the card in my hand. Jonathan Flynn, CEO, Virextech. Written in blue ink below his title were 3 words: "Let's discuss possibilities." My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend Kiara. "How did it go?" I typed back, "I think everything just changed. My name is Tiana Sims. I'm 34 years old, and I've been a strategist at Crawford Solutions for 6 years. 6 long years of proving myself over and over again. I'm the woman who fixed the Morrison account when everyone said it was hopeless. I'm the one who created the workflow system that saved the company $2 million. I'm the person clients ask for by name. But I'm also the woman who gets talked over in meetings. The one whose ideas get credited to other people. The one who smiles and says, 'No problem,' when asked to work weekends while others go golfing." Quincy became my boss 2 years ago. Harvard MBA. Perfect hair. The kind of confidence that comes from never being questioned. At first, he seemed supportive. He'd nod during my presentations and say things like, "Brilliant insight, Tiana." But something changed 6 months ago. The more successful I became, the colder he got. The more clients praised my work, the less he wanted to hear from me. Today's presentation was supposed to be my breakthrough moment. Instead, it became my breaking point. But Flynn's card burned in my pocket like a secret weapon. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the meeting in my head. Quincy's angry face, the shocked silence, Flynn's mysterious smile. My presentation had been bold, maybe too bold. I'd proposed a complete overhaul of Virextech's customer onboarding process using AI-driven personalization. It wasn't just an improvement. It was a revolution. I'd spent months researching their pain points, late nights analyzing their customer data, weekends building models and projections. The solution was elegant, scalable, and profitable. But Quincy never read my proposal. He'd told me to own the presentation without reviewing a single slide. Then he ambushed me in front of their biggest client. "You blindsided leadership," he'd hissed at me afterward in the hallway. This wasn't a pitch, it was a power grab. A power grab for presenting a solution that could transform their business? I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Flynn's reaction played on repeat, that calculated smile. The way he leaned back like he was watching a chess match. Had he seen something Quincy missed? Or was I about to walk into another trap? The Daily Grind was busy when I arrived. Business people hunched over laptops, steam rising from their coffee cups. I found a corner table and waited, my hands sweating despite the air conditioning. Flynn walked in wearing dark jeans and a casual blazer. Nothing like the suit and tie executive from yesterday. He looked younger, more approachable. "Thank you for coming," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. I hope you don't mind meeting somewhere informal. I shook my head, not trusting my voice. He ordered black coffee. I asked for tea, my stomach too nervous for caffeine. I saw something interesting in that meeting yesterday, he began, his voice low and direct. You pitched the future. Quincy treated it like a threat. My cheeks flushed. I should have prepared him better. I should have. Stop. He held up a hand. You did nothing wrong. Your presentation was exactly what we needed to hear. I blinked, confused. But Quincy said... Quincy's scared, Flynn interrupted. He's scared because you see possibilities he can't imagine, and that makes you dangerous to him. The words hung in the air between us. Dangerous. I'd never thought of myself that way. Flynn leaned forward, his eyes intense. Let me ask you something, Tiana. Why aren't you the one leading strategy at Crawford? The question hit me like a punch. I'd asked myself the same thing 1,000 times. Quincy has more experience. Does he? Flynn's eyebrow raised. Because from what I saw yesterday, you understand our business better than he does. My throat felt tight. What are you saying? He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I'm saying I want you to come work for me. Directly. He slid the paper across the table. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It was a job offer. Senior Strategic Consultant, Virex Tech. The salary made my eyes widen. 25% more than I was making now. Plus equity. Plus benefits I'd only dreamed about. You'd report to me? Flynn continued. Full autonomy on strategic initiatives. Your own team. Complete creative freedom. I stared at the numbers, my heart pounding. This was everything I'd wanted. Everything Quincy had dangled in front of me but never delivered. I need time to think, I whispered. Flynn smiled. Of course. But don't think too long. I sat in my car outside the coffee shop for 20 minutes, staring at the offer. The numbers blurred as my eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. Shocked tears. Overwhelmed tears. This was real. A CEO had just offered me my dream job because he saw value in my work. Not despite Quincy's opinion, but because of what he'd witnessed himself. But doubt crept in. Crawford Solutions was my home. I'd built relationships there, created systems, made a name for myself even if it wasn't always recognized. Was I being disloyal? Was I running away from a challenge instead of fighting through it? My phone buzzed. A text from Kiara. Lunch tomorrow? I want to hear everything about the presentation disaster. Disaster. Is that what it was? Or was it the best thing that ever happened to me? I drove home in a daze, Flynn's offer burning a hole in my purse. That night, I spread the papers across my kitchen table and read every word 3 times. The position description was everything I'd ever wanted to do. Strategic planning, innovation development, client relationship management, all the things Quincy kept me away from. But leaving felt like admitting defeat. He humiliated you in front of 12 people, Kiara said, stabbing her salad with unnecessary force. And you're worried about loyalty? We were sitting in our favorite lunch spot, the one where we'd celebrated my promotion to senior strategist 3 years ago. Back when I thought working hard was enough. It's not that simple, I protested. I've invested 6 years in Crawford. My whole career. Your whole career that Quincy is destroying, Kiara interrupted. Tiana, listen to yourself. A CEO just offered you everything you've been begging for, and you're hesitating? I picked at my sandwich, my appetite gone. What if Flynn changes his mind? What if this is some kind of test? Kiara leaned back in her chair. What if it's not? What if this is the universe telling you to stop playing small? Her words stung because they were true. I had been playing small, accepting scraps when I deserved the whole meal. Quincy trained you to think you don't deserve better, Kiara continued. But you do. You've always deserved better. I thought about Flynn's words. You see possibilities he can't imagine. When was the last time Quincy had said anything like that to me? Never. The answer was never. I spent the weekend researching Virex Tech, their company culture, their recent projects, their growth trajectory. Everything I found impressed me. They valued innovation over politics, results over relationships, talent over tenure. Everything Crawford claimed to be but wasn't. Monday morning felt different when I walked into the office. The fluorescent lights seemed harsher, the gray cubicles more depressing. Even my favorite coffee mug looked sad. Quincy was in his office, door closed, on what sounded like a damage control call. Through the glass, I could see him gesturing wildly, his face red with frustration. The Virex Tech situation, I heard him say as I walked past. Complete miscommunication. Rogue presentation. Won't happen again. Rogue presentation. Is that what he was calling my months of careful research and strategic planning? I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Flynn's offer was saved in a password-protected file. I read it again, the words feeling more real each time. My phone chimed with an email notification. The subject line made my blood freeze. Annual performance review scheduled. It was from HR. My review was set for Friday. 3 weeks early. The HR meeting was worse than I'd imagined. Janet from Human Resources sat across from me with a thick folder, her expression carefully neutral. Your strategic metrics were impressive this quarter, she began, flipping through pages. Client satisfaction scores, project delivery times, innovation index, all excellent. Relief flooded through me. Maybe Quincy's tantrum hadn't affected my standing after all. However, Janet continued, and my heart sank, your direct supervisor has raised some concerns about your leadership approach. She slid a paper across the desk. Quincy's evaluation of my performance. The words jumped off the page like poison. Lacks team collaboration skills. Acts independently without proper authorization. Demonstrates concerning levels of ambition. May not be ready for increased responsibilities. I read it twice, my hands shaking. This wasn't a performance review. It was character assassination. I don't understand, I said, my voice barely a whisper. These concerns, they're not based on anything factual. Janet's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry, Tiana. Based on this evaluation, we'll need to postpone any promotion discussions. I walked back to my desk, feeling numb. Quincy hadn't just humiliated me publicly. He'd sabotaged my future privately, too. That afternoon, I sat in my car in the parking garage and called Flynn. Tiana, he answered on the second ring. I was hoping I'd hear from you. I accept, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Your offer? I accept. A pause. Then, excellent. When can you start? I need to give 2 weeks' notice. Of course, I'll have our HR team send over the paperwork. Welcome to Virex Tech, Tiana. After I hung up, I sat in the silence for a moment. Then I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty car. I wasn't running away. I was running toward something better. The resignation letter took me 10 minutes to write. 1 paragraph. Clean and professional. No drama, no accusations, just facts. I printed it on Crawford letterhead, signed it with my best pen, and walked to Quincy's office. He was reviewing the Virex Tech account files when I knocked, probably trying to figure out how to repair the damage. Come in, he called without looking up. I placed the letter in the center of his desk and stepped back. He read it once. His face went pale. Then he read it again. You're quitting? Yes. Where are you going? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Virex Tech. I'll be working directly with Flynn. The change in Quincy was instant and complete. The angry, dismissive man from the boardroom vanished, replaced by someone desperately trying to save face. Tiana, let's talk about this, he said, his voice suddenly warm. You're clearly feeling undervalued. That's on me. I want to fix this. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I remained standing. I can offer you a raise, he continued, his words coming faster now. 15%, maybe 20%. And your own team. You've been asking for that, right? I said nothing. More autonomy, too. He pressed on. Complete control over the strategy pipeline. You'll report directly to me, but I'll give you space to innovate. Everything he was offering I'd requested months ago. Back when I still believed in his promises. I can even get you a better title. He said, Senior Director of Strategic Innovation. How does that sound? Like too little too late, I replied. His face fell. What do you need? Tell me what you need. I need to work somewhere that values my contributions, I said. Somewhere I don't have to prove my worth every single day. He leaned back in his chair, defeated. This is about the Virex Tech meeting, isn't it? No, Quincy. This is about 6 years of being invisible. Word traveled fast in an office our size. By noon, everyone knew I was leaving. By end of day, they knew where I was going. The reactions were mixed. Some colleagues seemed genuinely sad to see me go. Others looked nervous, like they were wondering if they should follow. But the most interesting reaction came from the clients. My phone rang 3 times that afternoon. 3 different Virex Tech contacts, all asking the same question. Would I be taking their accounts with me to my new position? I explained that I couldn't discuss transition details yet, but I'd make sure they were taken care. What I didn't mention was how relieved they sounded when they learned I'd still be working on their business. The fourth call was different. It was Michael Torres from Apex Industries, one of Crawford's smaller but growing accounts. "I heard through the grapevine that you're moving on," he said. "I wanted to reach out personally." "I appreciate that, Michael. Here's the thing, Tiana. You've been the only person at Crawford who really understood our business. If you're not going to be handling our account anymore..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. That evening, I got a text from someone in accounting. "Quincy's been in emergency meetings all day." My last 2 weeks at Crawford were surreal. Quincy avoided me completely, communicating only through carefully worded emails about transition procedures. Meanwhile, my phone kept ringing. Clients wanting to know about their account management. Colleagues asking about opportunities at Virex Tech. Even a few competitors reaching out with job offers. But the most satisfying moment came during my exit interview with Janet from HR. "We're sorry to lose you," she said, reviewing my paperwork. "Your departure has caused quite a stir upstairs." "Oh, 3 clients have requested meetings about their account management going forward, and there's been some discussion about leadership approaches in the strategy department." I nodded politely, but inside I was smiling. Sometimes the truth has a way of surfacing on its own. "For what it's worth," Janet continued quietly, "your performance review didn't match what I've observed over the years. You've been one of our strongest contributors." It was a small validation, but it meant everything. On my last day, I cleaned out my desk while Quincy watched from his office. He didn't come over to say goodbye, didn't wish me well, just watched through his glass walls like a man watching his house burn down. I walked out of Crawford Solutions with my head high and my future bright. Virex Tech's office was everything Crawford's wasn't. Open, bright, collaborative. People actually smiled when they walked past each other. Flynn met me at reception on my first day, something I couldn't imagine Quincy ever doing. "Ready to change the world?" he asked with a grin. My first week was intensive orientation and strategic planning. Flynn introduced me to the executive team, all of whom seemed genuinely excited about my ideas for the onboarding overhaul. "This is exactly what we've been missing," said Maria Santos, the VP of Customer Experience. "Someone who can see the big picture and make it actionable." By Friday, I had my own office, my own team, and complete authority to implement my vision. The project Quincy had called reckless, and fantasy was now my primary mandate. The irony wasn't lost on me. That weekend, I got a LinkedIn message from someone at Crawford. "Quincy's freaking out. 2 more clients asked to transfer their accounts after you left. Management's asking serious questions." I smiled and closed the app. I wasn't interested in Crawford's problems anymore. I was too busy building solutions at Virex Tech. The transformation happened faster than anyone expected, including me. 3 months into my role at Virex Tech, the results were undeniable. My AI-driven onboarding system had reduced customer acquisition costs by 30% and increased satisfaction scores across the board. Industry publications started taking notice. Virex Tech's revolutionary approach to customer experience was the headline in Tech Innovation Weekly. The article didn't mention me by name, but it described my project in detail. My phone buzzed with congratulations from former colleagues who recognized my work. Flynn called me into his office that afternoon. "We're getting acquisition inquiries," he said, showing me emails from 3 major competitors. "They want to license your onboarding system." "What do you want to do?" "I want to give you equity in the licensing deals," he said. "This was your vision. You should benefit from its success." At Crawford, I would have been lucky to get a mention in the company newsletter. At Virex Tech, I was becoming a profit center. That evening, I saw something that made me laugh out loud. Crawford Solutions had posted a job listing. Director of Strategic Innovation, immediate opening. It was Quincy's position, and based on the requirements listed, they were looking for someone exactly like me. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Unknown number, but I recognized the voice immediately. "Tiana, this is Bradley Crawford from Crawford Solutions, the company founder, Quincy's boss, the man who'd hired me 6 years ago and hadn't spoken to me since." "Mr. Crawford, What can I do for you? I'd like to meet with you. Privately, there are some things we need to discuss. He suggested coffee at the same place where Flynn had made his offer. The symmetry was almost too perfect. Crawford looked older than I remembered. Grayer, more tired. He'd built his company from nothing, but now it was struggling without the talent that had made it successful. I'll be direct, he said after ordering his coffee. We made a mistake, a big mistake, and I want to fix it. I waited. Quincy's no longer with the company, he continued. Neither is his approach to leadership. We're restructuring the entire strategy department. I see. I want you to come back, as Director of Strategic Innovation. Your own team, complete autonomy, 30% raise plus equity. It was everything Quincy had promised in his desperate last-minute offer, and more. But I wasn't the same person who'd left 3 months ago. I appreciate the offer, I said carefully, but I'm very happy at Virex Tech. Crawford leaned forward. 40% raise plus a signing bonus, plus we'll license your onboarding technology for our own client implementations. The numbers were impressive. More than impressive. They were exactly what someone in my position should be earning, but numbers weren't everything anymore. Mr. Crawford, why didn't you make this offer 6 months ago? He shifted uncomfortably. We didn't realize. There were communication issues between you and Quincy that we should have addressed sooner. Communication issues. Corporate speak for, your boss sabotaged you and we didn't care enough to notice. What about the performance review? The one that blocked my promotion? His face flushed. That's been removed from your file. Completely. As far as our records show, it never existed. Too little, too late. Just like Quincy's desperate offers. I'm sorry, I said, standing up, but I found something better than what Crawford can offer. What's that? Respect. I left him sitting at the table, probably wondering how his company had lost its best strategist to a competitor he'd taken for granted. 6 months after leaving Crawford, I was invited to speak at the Regional Strategy Summit. The topic, Innovation in Customer Experience Design. I accepted immediately. The conference was held at the Grand Hotel downtown. 500 strategy professionals from across the region. As I walked onto the stage, I spotted familiar faces in the audience. Former colleagues, competitors, industry leaders I'd only read about. And in the third row, left side, sat Quincy. He looked different, thinner, less confident. The cocky swagger was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like defeat. Our eyes met for a moment. He nodded slightly. I nodded back. Then I began my presentation. Great ideas don't need noise, I started. They need courage. Courage to challenge assumptions. Courage to see possibilities others can't imagine. And courage to bet on talent even when it comes in unexpected packages. I talked about the Virex Tech transformation, the AI-driven systems, the measurable results, the cultural shift that happens when you empower people instead of controlling them. During the Q&A, someone asked about overcoming resistance to innovation. Sometimes, I said, the biggest obstacle isn't the technology or the budget. It's leaders who mistake fear for wisdom. Quincy left during the applause. After my presentation, I was surrounded by people wanting to connect. Business cards flew like confetti. 3 job offers materialized before I'd even left the building. But the most meaningful moment came when a young woman approached me near the exit. Miss Sims? I'm Rebecca Park. I work at a small consulting firm downtown. She looked nervous but determined. Familiar. I wanted to thank you, she continued. Your story about standing up for your ideas, it gave me courage to propose something bold at my company. How did it go? She smiled. They approved it, and they're giving me a team to implement it. Driving home that night, I thought about the ripple effects of courage. How one person standing up can inspire others to do the same. My phone buzzed with a text from Flynn. Watched your presentation online. Brilliant as always. Board wants to discuss a VP role when you're ready. VP. 6 months ago, I couldn't even get a senior director title at Crawford. But titles weren't what mattered anymore. Impact was. A week later, I got an email that made me smile. Rebecca Park had been promoted to Director of Innovation at her firm. The courage was spreading. A year after leaving Crawford, I received an unexpected package at my office. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a framed copy of my original Virex Tech presentation. The one Quincy had called reckless, the one that had changed everything. There was a note attached. You were right about everything. I was wrong about everything. Congratulations on your success. I stared at it for a long time. An apology, finally, but not the kind I'd once wanted. I didn't need Quincy's validation anymore. I had something better, my own. That afternoon, I hung the framed presentation in my office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that good ideas survive bad leadership, that talent finds a way to shine, even in the darkness. That evening, Flynn knocked on my door. How's the VP transition going? Smoothly, I said, gesturing to the framed presentation. Just processing some history. He glanced at it and smiled. Your reckless fantasy that's now generating 8 figures in revenue? That's the one. Funny how perspective changes everything, he said. Funny indeed. My first year as VP of Strategic Innovation exceeded every metric we'd set. Virex Tech's market share grew by 40%. Our customer retention hit record highs. And my team had expanded to 22 brilliant minds, most of them women and underrepresented minorities who'd been overlooked elsewhere. We worked differently than traditional strategy teams. Less hierarchy, more collaboration. Less politics, more results. We celebrated bold ideas instead of punishing them. Industry recognition followed. Forbes named Virex Tech one of the most innovative companies to watch. Fast Company featured our AI onboarding system as a case study in customer experience design. My LinkedIn inbox overflowed with messages from professionals who felt stuck in toxic environments, asking for advice on making bold career moves. I answered every single one. The hardest part, I told them, isn't leaving a bad situation. It's believing you deserve something better. But belief, I'd learned, was like a muscle. The more you exercised it, the stronger it became. Meanwhile, Crawford Solutions continued to struggle. 3 more senior strategists had left in the past year. Their client roster was shrinking. Industry rumors suggested they were exploring acquisition options. Success, it turned out, was the best revenge. But it wasn't revenge anymore. It was just success. 2 years after my departure from Crawford, I was invited to deliver the keynote address at the National Strategy Conference. The theme, Leading Through Innovation. Standing on that stage, looking out at 2,000 strategy professionals, I felt the full weight of how far I'd traveled. 2 years ago, I was called an incompetent fool for proposing the very ideas that have now transformed how we think about customer experience. A murmur rippled through the audience. I'm not here to talk about revenge or vindication, I continued. I'm here to talk about something more important, the courage to see yourself clearly. I told them about the meeting where Quincy humiliated me, about Flynn's unexpected offer, about the choice between staying safe and betting on myself. The most radical thing you can do in your career, I said, isn't to take a risk. It's to stop shrinking. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, at the networking reception, dozens of people shared their own stories of workplace challenges, of ideas dismissed, of talents overlooked, of courage found. I realized I wasn't just successful now, I was influential. And influence used wisely could change entire industries. On my 3rd anniversary at Virex Tech, Flynn announced his retirement. The board unanimously voted to offer me the CEO position. At 37, I would be running the company whose original pitch had gotten me called an incompetent fool. The press release made headlines in all the major business publications, from strategist to CEO, Tiana Sim's remarkable rise. The article in Business Weekly included a quote that made me laugh. Sometimes the most revolutionary thing a leader can do is recognize talent when everyone else sees a threat. It was attributed to Jonathan Flynn. My first week as CEO, I instituted a new policy. Every employee idea, regardless of seniority level, would get a fair hearing. No more brilliant insights dying in hostile meetings. I also established the Innovation Courage Fund, a program to support employees who wanted to pursue bold projects that didn't fit traditional categories. The applications flooded in immediately. Rebecca Park, the young woman from the conference, was one of the first recipients. Her project on predictive customer behavior analytics had the potential to revolutionize the entire industry. Courage was contagious, and I was just getting started. 5 years later, I was interviewed for a documentary about workplace transformation and women in leadership. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd stayed at Crawford? The interviewer asked. I don't wonder, I said. I know. I would have spent decades fighting for crumbs instead of years building something substantial. The documentary aired on a Tuesday night. My phone exploded with messages from viewers who saw their own stories reflected in mine. One message stood out. It was from a young strategist at a mid-size firm in Ohio. Watching your story gave me the courage to propose my own reckless idea tomorrow. Wish me luck. I wrote back immediately. You don't need luck. You need conviction. Trust your vision. 6 months later, she sent me an update. Her idea had been approved. She'd been promoted. She was building something beautiful. The ripple effects continued to spread. Today, Firex Tech is valued at over $2 billion. We employ 1,200 people across 4 countries. Our innovation framework has been adopted by Fortune 500 companies worldwide. But none of that is my proudest achievement. My proudest achievement is simpler. I stopped waiting for someone else to see my value. I saw myself clearly. And that was enough. From the conference room where Quincy called me an incompetent fool to the boardroom where I now lead strategy for thousands of employees, I learned the most important lesson of my career. Sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is stop shrinking. And once you stop shrinking, the whole world has room for your ideas.